I'm Susan Euler. Photography had a major impact on art. In this program, we're going to look at the work of the Fauves, the wild beasts, a group of French artists who painted at the beginning of the 20th century and wanted their work to look like it couldn't possibly have been done by a camera. The year 1900 was greeted with a great deal of enthusiasm. It was not only just the beginning of a new century, it was the beginning of an entirely new way of life, with cars, telephones, phonographs, electric lights, flying machines, and yes, cameras. Cameras that were affordable, easy to use, and turned everyone into an artist, at least in theory. It was the era of photography. That may have influenced us and contributed to our reaction against anything that resembled a photographic plate taken from life. We treated colors like sticks of dynamite, exploding them to produce light. We attacked color directly. André Derain, Fauve artist. The style known as Fauvism was first introduced to the public in the fall of 1905 at the Salon de Nuit. The Salon de Nuit had been created a few years earlier by renowned architect Franz Jordan as a way of promoting new art and avant-garde artists. Jordan himself is best remembered as the architect who remodeled the famous Paris department store La Samaritaine in the new daring Art Nouveau style. Although torn down in 2014 because it could not be brought up to meet modern building codes, the rooftop garden at La Samaritaine lives on in a scene from the movie The Bourne Identity. So you'll want to watch for it. In any event, although Jordan himself worked in the Art Nouveau style, all styles of modern art were welcomed at the Salon de Nuit, and established as well as emerging artists were invited to exhibit, including those associated with the Fauves. The major Fauve artists were Henri Matisse, Maurice Flamanck, André Derain, and Georges Rouault, along with Dufy, Marquet, Van Dongen, Metzinger, Frieze, Valtat, and Georges Braque, who will join Picasso in 1908 to establish the Cubist movement. The word Fauve means wild beast. Although they worked together and shared common goals, the Fauves did not come up with this name for their style. Rather, it derives from a remark made by art critic Louis Vaucel, who upon seeing a Renaissance-style sculpture at the first Fauve exhibit exclaimed, "Donatello au milieu des fauves," Donatello among the wild beasts. His comment was reported in the popular newspaper Gil Blas, and the name stuck. 2 years later, Vaucel wrote, also in Gil Blas, "A movement I consider dangerous is taking shape among a small clan of youngsters." The leaders of this clan were Henri Matisse and André Derain, hardly youngsters. Matisse was 38 and Derain was 27. Vaucel himself was only 37. But of course he might have considered himself older because of his more sophisticated taste in art, at least in his own estimation. Henri Matisse was anything but a wild beast. Widely admired as a dedicated family man, he originally intended to become a lawyer. However, while he was recovering from an appendix operation, his mother bought him a set of paints to help him pass the time. The story goes that he found painting so wonderful that he dropped out of law school and enrolled in the Académie Julian and then the École des Beaux-Arts to study art full-time. His first paintings reflect his conservative art school education, realistically painted in dark colors with strong contrasts of light and shade. But he soon lightened his palette and introduced Impressionist color. By 1900, Matisse was working in the bold colors and abstract painting style that will come to characterize Fauvism. Matisse was not the first modern painter to use bold, highly saturated colors. Interest in color theory had been intense among artists since the 1870s, when the Impressionists discovered the writings of scientist Michel Chevreul. What impressed them most about Chevreul's theories was the concept that the eye mixes color. For example, a river isn't a solid blue, but a mixture of many different colors and reflections that from a distance the eye sees as blue, or green, or gray, or whatever, depending on what is being reflected and the lighting conditions. To make their paintings more realistic, that is, more representative of what the eye actually sees, the Impressionists applied paint in small dashes or taches of different colors and let the eye of the viewer mix them together, just like is done when viewing the scene in nature. By the late 1880s, the Impressionists, particularly Edgar Degas and Claude Monet, began painting in colors that went beyond anything seen in nature, using individualized colors that evoke rather than describe a scene. This expressive use of color will inspire the next generation of artists, the so-called post-impressionists, such as Van Gogh and Gauguin, who will replace naturalistic colors, that is, the colors of nature, with abstract and sometimes symbolic colors that express the artist's feelings about a subject rather than simply describing what it looks like. Other post-impressionists took the Impressionist taches and transformed them into small dots or points, which they scientifically arranged, more or less, in patterns to create an image. Called Pointillism, Divisionism, or Neo-Impressionism, the technique was invented in the 1880s by Georges Seurat. Like the Impressionists before them, the Pointillists used different colors placed side by side to allow the viewer's eye to mix them together optically to form a new shade. It doesn't really work, and later Pointillists abandoned any pretense that this technique was scientific. In 1904, Matisse joined Pointillist Paul Signac and Edmond Cross at Saint-Tropez. Both Signac and Cross used intense expressive colors in their works that did not necessarily reflect the colors of nature. This combination of abstract color and loosely applied points or dots quickly changed Matisse's style. He lightened his palette and began painting with looser, more abstract brushstrokes and fewer details. In the summer of 1905, Matisse and his friend and fellow artist André Derain went on a painting holiday to the little fishing village of Collier in southern France on the border with Spain. This is where the Fauvism style really comes together. Derain's work, even more than that of Matisse, defines Fauvism, with its strong lines and bold expressive colors applied directly from the tube. Looking at the landscapes he painted at Collier and those he did the following year in London, one can understand what Derain meant when he said they used paints like sticks of dynamite. Painted in bright blues and vivid shades of orange, pink, and green, these innovative works epitomize the bold new 20th century attitude towards life and art. The relationship between the vivid paintings of the Fauves and the black and white palette of early 20th century photography is obvious. The Fauves, like the post-impressionists before them, wanted to give viewers something photography could not: color. As Derain explained, we attacked color directly. However, the Fauves were not interested in using color symbolically, unlike the symbolist artists such as Gauguin. Rather, they were interested in color's formal properties, how different colors work together to achieve an effect, a decorative effect. As Matisse wrote, "Expression, to my way of thinking, does not consist of the passion mirrored upon the human face or betrayed by a violent gesture. The whole arrangement of my picture is expressive. Composition is the art of arranging in a decorative manner the various elements at the painter's disposal for the expression of his feelings. A work achieves the harmony of the whole." And the public loved Fauvism right from the start. And although it only lasted as a unified art movement for around 5 years, it has remained one of the most popular and influential styles of the modern period. In fact, Fauvism was so immediately popular that in 1907, art dealer Daniel Kahnweiler bought every painting in Derain's studio, giving Derain financial stability that allowed him to continue as an artist for the rest of his life. And as for Matisse, he quickly became a favorite of wealthy collectors Leo and Gertrude Stein and the Cohn sisters, who bought many of his paintings and helped launch his career as one of the leading artists of the 20th century. Today, the Cohn sisters' impressive collection of Matisses is in the Baltimore Museum of Art, and you can see them free of charge. It's well worth a visit. For the 10-Minute Professor, this is Susan Ray Euler. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure you watch our next program.